Welcome to Eugene Cannabis TV. You made the trip. You got your host Dank here, and we got Stoned Phillips in for another day or an evening of comment, and he goes through these publications that are available. And a lot of these publications are at your local dispensaries, clinics, and the freedom leaves are a certain number given to us, our normal chapter. And so we have those available. They can be picked up. And anyway, I wanted to talk about Kathy Ging. Our friend Kathy Ging notified me of a couple things that we need to be aware of. PeaceHealth has lowered the boom on medical marijuana with an extremely regressive edict issued yesterday. They claim their justification is a fear of federal violations. They are banning all staff from any participation in patients' marijuana requests, and any forms already signed will be destroyed. The only way the new administration at PeaceHealth will reconsider is if the community it serves, which is Alaska, Washington, Oregon, which all have been comfortable with medical marijuana for quite some time, react. This is a question from the source, and she asks, so where is the community and patient outcry? How come the Richard Guard has let PeaceHealth go through enormous changes for nearly 4 years now with virtual zero reportage? There's an older information on the website here that's quoted. It apparently is a little bit more liberal, but again, that's outdated apparently now. So anyway, PeaceHealth, shame on you. You're supposed to be helping the sick, and you're actually going the other way. So yep. Hopefully the community will rise up over that. And obviously something Valley Normal could be helping with too. Yes. So we should be looking into that. And then also, and this is a real positive thing, this is biggie, September 29th is at the Cozmic is the Cannabis Science Pub, which is a monthly presentation that's put on by the OG Analytical Company. On September 29th, they're going to the title is High Numbers, Statistics and Variance in Cannabinoid Potency. What is a reasonable cannabinoid potency value, and how is it measured? Yes. What does the data tell us? At our September Cannabis Science Pub, Jeffrey Sackett of Cascadia Labs will tell us how potency is measured and what makes cannabis such a complex matrix to work with in the lab. Dr. Roger Volker of OG Analytical will discuss variance in lab testing, and Steve Albaran of Confident Cannabis will answer the question, what is the real difference between indicas, sativas, and hybrids? I would like to know. Yeah, so that's on Tuesday, September 29th, between 6 and 9 at Cozmic. That's at 199 West 8th Avenue, and it is free to the public. So I'm going. Definitely, me too. And big thanks to, this month's sponsors is Island Labs, High Mountain Organics, and the Constant Gardener. So we appreciate those folks pitching in on that. And of course, Bethany Sherman from OG Analytical has been organizing all the other, pulls the whole thing together. So great people, and OG Analytical, also Kathy goes on to say, OG Analytical, from what I understand, has helped to expose the fact that some cannabis extracts being provided to patients were contaminated with pesticides, etc., as per the article in Oregon Live a few months ago. Some dispensaries decided to discard them when they found out the shocking results of tests by OG Analytical. The press needs to cover the issue, as in the future extracts will continue to be sold at a large number of dispensaries, and many are probably not certified organic. I think some are. Also, by October 1, many dispensaries will be selling marijuana for adult use, and not all of it is certified organic. So anyway, we thank Kathy Ging for updating us on that. And
well, I want to make a few comments.
Sure. Yes,
OG
please.
Analytical, I just found out that OG Analytical and Eugene Weekly are sponsoring an event called GanjaCon, which is going on in October. I just found out about it from a buddy of mine who's a representative of, I think his organization is called Love to Win Entertainment, and he will be providing some of the entertainment for that event.
October when?
Yeah, I forget the exact day. It's called GanjaCon. It's in the works. I'm not even sure if they have a website up yet, but they soon will. And as I said, OG Analytical and Eugene Weekly are sponsoring this event.
Great.
So that's pretty awesome. Also, you mentioned the thing about pesticides being found. I'm actually working on a story about heavy metals and contamination from cannabis that's being shipped from other countries to the United States, which I'm wondering, since we have so much cannabis in the United States, why are we having it shipped over from other countries and it's not being tested? And anyways, I'm working on that story, Dan.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm always worried about, things that are grown outside the United States. I always think is, how do we know what went into growing them? You know, I mean, well, anyway. So yeah, it's a real problem. So excellent. So okay, well, let's see. We got tell us.
My first story. It doesn't come out of Freedom Leaf. It actually is from the MMA. Are you familiar with mixed martial arts at all?
No,
okay.
no.
Mixed martial arts. That's where they punch and kick, and they can get on the ground, and throw bows, that kind of stuff. Ken Shamrock. People like that. He's a legend, by the way. Recently, another legend of the UFC, in my opinion, Nate Diaz, who's been fighting for almost 2 decades, was recently suspended by the Nevada Gaming Commission. I believe that's who suspended him for 5 years for testing positive for marijuana.
That's right. I did hear about that.
Yeah, and I think it's atrocious. And you know who else thinks it's atrocious? The women's world champion, Rowdy Ronda Rousey. And if you go to YouTube and look up her recent press conference, she speaks out against this unfair treatment of athletes and them being targeted for these drug tests. And my opinion about the whole UFC thing, and I've been forming it for a while, Dank, is you look at John Bones Jones, who was the lightweight heavyweight champion of the world. In my opinion, the greatest fighter that I've seen from the UFC. And he was caught in a hit and run situation, and now he's suspended. And they found cocaine in his system. And my question is, why is the UFC pushing fighters to use alcohol and cocaine and methamphetamine to relax or take the edge off? Those types of drugs get out of your system within a few days. Marijuana, as you know, Dank, takes an average of 30 days. So what drugs is an athlete who's in constant pain gonna go to? They know they have a fight in a week, so they want to take the edge off. They want to try to relieve some pain and be ready for their next fight. They're feeling the pressure to go to alcohol, cocaine, methamphetamine, or pills. And I'm just left wondering, what if John Bones Jones, the greatest fighter I've ever seen in the UFC so far in modern history, what if he had the choice? What if he had a choice to relax with some marijuana? That's my question. We wouldn't even have this situation. He'd still be fighting, winning titles, continuing on. He's a young man. I think he's still in his early 20s. And this has completely hamstrung his career. And I think it's atrocious. And Ronda Rousey agrees. So
yeah, I did hear about the guy. They were talking about several people that got caught with performance-enhancing drugs, and they got way less time suspension than the one that got caught for marijuana. And it's got nothing to do with expansion or anything except maybe the head. So Yeah, so that's really wrong, definitely wrong.
Mm-hmm. Hope that changes soon, and that
Yeah.
applies to
Yeah.
professional football, basketball athletes, also college athletes too, that work real hard and hurt themselves constantly and have to walk it off. And in my opinion, they're receiving no relief.
Yeah, I remember when the swimmer, I forgot his name, the Olympic swimmer.
Oh, Michael Phelps.
Yeah, I remember when that first came out, you know, and I remember somewhere somebody had written, it said, "This is a letter that Michael Phelps should have written," you know, and it says, "Yeah, I smoked marijuana, and I also did this and did this and did this and did blah blah blah." And so,
didn't he have something like 7 gold medals or something?
Yeah,
some ridiculous number.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. It's
But I was really disappointed when he turned to did 180 and just you know, went completely straight and wasn't going to, you know, anyway, instead of
ridiculous.
Yeah, instead of really taking the baton and running with it and help to the whole cause and the whole patients and everything, you know, he thought of himself.
Well,
So,
you know, what kind of pressure are they putting on those athletes? You know,
Yeah,
it's you know, when you're dealing with all kinds of contracts and stuff, I mean, that's a lot of pressure on people, and I feel like that's how our educational system puts pressure on students who perform well. I remember Katie Couric was interviewing the governor of Colorado, Hickenlooper, in a town hall meeting in Colorado. This was, I believe, in 2014, or maybe it was 2013, one of the two. And a young high school student asked Hickenlooper, you know, what do you say to high school students who get straight A's and use marijuana? And Hickenlooper was silent, and you can YouTube this. And Katie Couric looked at that young person and looked at Hickenlooper and said, "Well, maybe you shouldn't tell him anything." You know, and everyone applauded, and Hickenlooper nodded his head in agreement. And you can YouTube that, Katie Couric interviewing Hickenlooper. Yeah, it's a very interesting interview.
Let me jump in real quick and talk about the Oregon Marijuana Convention. It's coming up in Portland. That's October 10th and 11th. And that's put on by Jerry Norton. And great guy and great event. And it's, I think, $10 or $20 to get into. So by any means that you can get up there, be there. We're gonna have a booth there. So I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Sounds
Yeah,
great.
but and then we'll talk about hemp stock next segment,
yes.
and that is really exciting. A lot to talk about on that one. So things are coming up, but the important thing is, like I said, I don't want to forget the Tuesday, September 29th, the free class on marijuana that's going to be at Cozmic. That's at Cozmic 199 West 8th. And that's a great venue, and these classes go on once a month, the last Tuesday of each month. So I appreciate you people putting those on. So we're going to come back with a second half, and we'll have more later. Welcome back to the second half of the Eugene Cannabis TV show. You got your host Dank here, and we've got Stoned Phillips. He is back with us and talking about some of the articles that he's found in some of these magazines. I wanted to talk about hemp stock real quick, and then we'll dive into what Stoned Phillips has found for us. Hemp stock is on. They were originally the city denied them a park, saying that there was pot smoking going on last year and that they didn't want it in the city limits. Anyway, a denial was filed and they won the denial. So the hemp stock is on. It's September 17th and 18th in Portland. It's going to be, and this is what's really exciting to me, is it's going to be at the Tom McCall Waterfront Park. Now, The reason that's really cool is Tom McCall was the governor that signed the first decriminalization of marijuana law in the United States, and he was our governor in 1976. And so Oregon was the first state to decriminalize possession of less than an ounce.
That's true.
And that's something I've always been proud of, and I always thought that we should be the first state to legalize. But unfortunately, it didn't happen in spite of me pushing all my peers and pissing them off. But anyway, so that's, again, and that's the hemp stock, and that's something that's not to be missed. Paul Sanders puts on one heck of an event. He is not afraid to spend the money, and he goes in the red very, very deep every year. Doesn't care.
Quite generous.
He's very generous and dedicated. So that's Paul Sanford. He's been our sponsor of our Hemp Fest. Him and his organization, that's THC Foundation, been sponsors of the Hemp Fest. Well, the longest running sponsors that we have, in fact. So anyway, they have been gracious enough to give us a booth. Those booths retail for about $1,000, and we've got one for, and they donated one to us. So we've got a space.
Like that.
So the Willamette Valley Normal, Eugene Cannabis TV, and the Emerald Empire Hemp Fest all be represented at Hempstock.
Yes.
So that's going to be exciting. So anyway, let's get back to some of these magazines that are at different locations around.
Yep. I got the latest issue of Freedom Leaf. It's got a picture of Bernie Sanders on the front. Now, I've been seeing a lot of promotion for Bernie around campus and just around Eugene in general, and I'm not too familiar with Bernie. And then I saw, oh, he's on Freedom Leaf. Okay, let me find out a little bit about Bernie. So there's a little bit here in the House. Sanders frequently backed key amendments that aimed to stop the Department of Justice from expending funds to interfere with state medical marijuana laws. Sounds pretty good. Sanders has yet to sign on as a co-sponsor of the Senate's Compassionate Access, Research, Expansion, and Respect States Act, sponsored by Senators, who else? Rand Paul, and who else? Cory Booker. Those two gentlemen, a Republican and a Democrat, working together. I think it's awesome to get this marijuana legalization going. And, Rand Paul and Cory Booker, they keep popping up. Even when you're talking about Barry Sanders, Rand Paul, Cory Booker, popping up again. Now, I thought that was kind of interesting. Barry seems pretty good. The only thing that caught my attention was he has yet to sign this. It's called CARERS. That's the acronym for the Compassionate Access, Research, Expansion, and Respect States Act. I believe that's CARERS, yes. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And I remember reading an article about this act in the May issue of Freedom Leaf, which was many, many, many months ago. Let's see. Here it is. And the politicians who are endorsing this are Cory Booker, Kirsten Gillibrand, Rand Paul, Dean Heller, Barbara Boxer, and Steve Cohen. And this is when the act first, came out. The measure, Senate Bill 683, the Compassionate Access, Research, Expansion, and Respect States Act, CARERS, marks the first time that the U.S. Senate has taken up the issue of legalizing marijuana for medical use. Now, Barry Sanders isn't here. Or Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders isn't here, so that's what caught my attention. Now, the 10-page bill, this 10-page Senate bill, seeks to permanently bar the U.S. government from prosecuting qualified patients, doctors, and businesses that engage in state-sanctioned behavior involving the production, sale, and use of medical cannabis. Separate provisions in the bill reschedule marijuana at the federal level. That's super important. And remove, this is very important, and remove the compound cannabidiol, CBD, from the Controlled Substances Act altogether, which it shouldn't be there in the first place. So this is a very, very important bill, and Bernie Sanders, this is in May when this came out. So Bernie Sanders, this is September, still hasn't endorsed this bill, which is a very important bill. But Rand Paul has. Cory Booker's behind him. Republican and Democrat working together. Excellent bipartisanship. I like seeing that. So, yeah.
That'd be something to follow up on and keep track of.
Oh, and then so here's another thing. Here's another new bill coming out. This is the Cannabis Banking Bill. This is from September. This is right now. On July 23rd, the U.S. Senate Appropriations Committee voted 16-14 in favor of the Marijuana Business Access to Banking Act of 2015, sponsored by Jeff Merkley, Cory Gardner, Ron Wyden, Michael Bennett, and Patty Murray, that could allow legal cannabis dispensaries in Colorado, Washington State, and elsewhere to tap the banking and financial services system. That's very important, especially when we have recreational marijuana. And again, I don't see Bernie Sanders' name. Kind of interesting. So what I'm kind of, okay, so here's my other one. I'm kind of doing a presidential candidate stack up here, which in the August issue of Milligram MG magazine, they kind of do a great stacking up for the potential presidential voter. Let's see. It's done by the Marijuana Policy Project, MPP, gives high cannabis marks to candidate Rand Paul. 16 Republicans and 6 Democrats in all were evaluated, and to no one's surprise, the curly-headed senator from Kentucky, Rand Paul, leads the field with an impressive A+ grade. And again, let's see, the Democrats that they list here are Lincoln Chafee, Jim Webb. They both get B+. And so there's your second and your third place, runners up. Again, Bernie Sanders isn't mentioned. So what got me thinking was the statements here. The statements were pretty telling. Let's see. As far as, yeah, it says here about Bernie Sanders, how he frequently backed key amendments. And as I read earlier, Rand Paul consistently does. So in my choice, I'm going to vote for a candidate that consistently backs marijuana. That's just my opinion on the whole issue. And then that really helped solidify me as a young voter, trying to decide, man, who, from a marijuana activist standpoint, who I'm going to support. And Rand Paul is looking real good, especially when he's willing to work with the Democrats to, legalize marijuana. I think it's awesome. So that's you can tell who I'm going to vote for. And I think it would be really, really cool if Rand Paul and Cory Booker ran together. A Democrat and a Republican running together. I don't know what exactly.
I don't know.
I'm not sure if it ever happened, in the history of the United States.
I don't know if I heard of Cory Booker before.
He's from New Jersey. He's a senator from New Jersey,
oh.
and he's been working closely with Rand Paul on all of this. So it's a quandary for me because I see Republicans and Democrats working together to legalize marijuana, and then you have Republicans and Democrats working hard to keep it illegal. So as a young voter, I don't know where the party lines are anymore, and I'm not sure if there aren't any party lines. This marijuana issue really is, it's a revelation. It's a political revelation. People say they want a revolution. Well, revolution, you go around and around and around and around. I want to get off this crazy merry-go-round, and I want a marijuana revelation. I want to see the truth come out about this thing.
Yeah, and by the way, about 9 days, and we can buy marijuana.
I'm ready. And I also would encourage, I would encourage everyone to also get into the medical program. Don't let the medical program die off.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely, yes, and also if nothing else, the medical program, if you're a grower, can help you grow a lot more plants than you could ever think of doing it on your own as a personal thing. But the medical, we need to keep that so that people keep working on tinctures, medibles, all that stuff. It's got to keep going for the patients. But anyway, but as far as the recreational, don't forget it's tax-free from October 1st until the end of the year. It's tax-free, so enjoy it where you can. You can only get an eighth. Yeah, you can only get an eighth a day. 4 plants. I can't remember what is the other, but anyway, it's pretty restricted. But an eighth a day should take care of most people. Of course, I've known a lot of people that wouldn't last a day, but
I know.
it depends on the person and blah blah blah. But anyway, but history is being made, you know, and so and I like that tax-free. I believe we should never have to pay tax on pot. We've already been taxed since 1937, and so it's time for it to end. We don't need to pay it anymore. It's a plant, so we need to control on pot plants like marijuana, like we do on tomatoes.
It's an inanimate object. They're waging a war on an inanimate object.
Yeah.
You want to know the only thing worse waging a war on an inanimate object? Waging a war on a rock.
I like how he says marijuana is not a drug. Marijuana is a plant. It's with a drug in it. But anyway, we are big believers in freedom and an herb of cannabis for all uses, and it's amazing how many uses there really are when you start looking, and especially take the blinders off a look. So thanks for joining us, and thank you, Stoned Phillips, for
Thank you, Dank. Appreciate it.
Appreciate your information.
Yeah.
So we'll see you next time.